Good morning. I'm Susan Pertnoy here with Barbara Kay. Welcome to Mosaic, Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine show.
Now in our 40th season, Mosaic explores Jewish issues here in the Palm Beaches and around the world.
Since its inception immediately after the 9/11 terror attacks, the Department of Homeland Security has been integral in identifying threats to our country.
Today we'll speak with the former leader of Homeland Security, Jane Lute, about how she's combating the greatest dangers confronting the Jewish community today.
We'll be right back with Mosaic after this brief commercial break.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I could have bought my BMW anywhere, but at Freeman, I love my salesman, my BMW, and Club Freeman.
It's the Season of Love sales event. Enjoy exceptional offers at Raymond BMW, West Palm Beach and Jupiter. RaymondBMW.com.
The Live-In Palace at Morse Life is leasing luxury residences for ages 65 plus, offering more than first-class amenities and white glove service. Life at the Palace is like life aboard a luxury cruise ship with more things to enjoy life now. More fabulous food, more fun, more friends, more family, more freedom, more future. Morse Life is more life. Live it at the Palace. Start your fabulous future now. Call 561-537-3402.
There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen. Joining us is Jane Lute, the former Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, an expert in cybersecurity, and also a special advisor to the UN. Welcome to Mosaic.
Thanks very much for having me.
You've said that Homeland Security has name brand recognition, but not name brand understanding. So could you describe Homeland Security, what it does, and why it was created?
It's such an interesting thing when you think about people have heard of Homeland Security all around the world. Everyone knows about this department and the role that it plays in the United States, but they don't really understand that role. And so when the department was created right after 9/11, it was created from 22 different agencies around the federal government. And the purpose of the department is to help create a safe, secure, resilient place where the American way of life can thrive. Now that's a mouthful and it's not poetry, but it tells you in a sentence really what the department is aiming to do. How will it do that? It will do that really principally through 5 things. Preventing another 9/11. That's really job one. In securing the borders of the United States. And there's an interesting tension in that mission. On the one hand, you want to keep out people and things that might be dangerous, but on the other hand, you want to expedite legitimate trade and travel. Similarly, the role of the department is to enforce our immigration laws. Highly controversial issue right now, but a country has a right to know who lives and works within its borders. And again, we want to welcome those who enrich our culture, our economy, our way of life, but we want to keep out people who might be dangerous. Additionally, the department has a role in responding to national disasters and building national resilience, and then finally, in ensuring the cybersecurity of the critical infrastructure of the United States. That's really the role it has to play. It's complex, it's a lot to say, and that's why we say we have excellent brand name recognition, not so much brand name understanding, but I think that's changing.
We know when it fails, but how do we know when Homeland Security succeeds?
You know, that is a terrific question. All of us get on planes every single day, and none of us not many of us, I should say perhaps, worry about that plane being blown out of the sky. And it's not just because Osama bin Laden is gone. It's because they know men and women show up every single day thinking about the safety and security of the traveling public. 90% of the American public lives within 1 hour of a major body of water. Everyone recognizes the Coast Guard and what they do. We're in Florida, right? Hurricane season. You know, don't have to explain that to this community by any means. The FEMA's response has gotten better and better and better over the years. And so there are a number of things that people recognize are being done every day. TSA, Border Patrol, Coast Guard again. These are activities that are the, I guess, silent plumbing and wiring of the safety and security and resilience of this country.
What's the difference between Homeland Security and national security?
Well, when we think broadly about the term national security, of course, Homeland Security is a part. But national security really refers to the role of Washington as the national command authority, of our military, of the intelligence community, of the State Department and our foreign relations. Homeland Security, Washington isn't commanding anybody. It's the federal partner to the states and the municipalities and the communities. So it plays a very, very different role. And it has a different approach to security, therefore. It takes all of us to work together in Homeland Security. And in national security, we tend to think of the role that the government plays in running the military. So it's a different approach to the question of security, but when you think about the challenges that we face, for example, security in the internet, cybersecurity, security online. National security is strategic, it's centralized, it's top-driven. It's hard for me to imagine 3 more useless words in the English language to describe the internet than strategic, centralized, and top-driven. We need more of a transactional, decentralized, bottom-up approach, and that's what Homeland Security brings.
So what's the state of Homeland Security as it exists today?
I would say the state of the security of the homeland is strong. Everyone is aware. People have really internalized the message of, if you see something, say something. And we haven't turned ourselves into a big brother state. We all have challenges, we know that, right? But we engage collectively. We're looking out for each other more than we used to. And it's important in our community, certainly, right, that we pay attention because we know anti-Semitic remarks are on the rise, hate speech is on the rise. And this is not just a question of a few extreme people exercising their free speech rights.
We have to take a break. Hold that thought. We'll be right back after this brief message.
Coming up, more with Jane Lute about Israel's leadership role in technology and what she makes of the rise in online anti-Semitism.
Eat, drink, and enjoy Shabbat services at Temple Bethel's Friday night happenings. Cocktail reception and kosher dinner at 5:30, followed by our creative, musically driven Shabbat service. Traditional to progressive, the food and music change every Friday, and you'll want to stay for complimentary dessert.
Plan to spend the whole evening here, and you'll walk away and you'll say, wow, we're coming back next week. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat services at Temple Bethel, open to everyone. Join us every Friday night.
We have over 100 Porsches out of the sun and rain in our 6-story parking garage.
So it's easy to find your dream car at Porsche West Palm Beach.
Porsche West Palm Beach, the #1 Porsche certified pre-owned center with the largest selection in Florida. Visit BraemanPorsche.com.
In celebration of Mosaic's 40th season, take a look at this classic clip from our archives. I save things, and in 1999, there was an article in the magazine section of the New York Times, and it was all about you. I have your face here.
Can you give me a copy later on?
I brought this kind of ragged copy for you.
Yeah.
But it says here, in the first 5 months as Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak had made a big bet to focus on a single goal, which he pursued virtually alone: peace. That must have been a terrible disappointment to you. Not only to the rest of the world.
I was asked many times, how come I take such risks in order to achieve peace, which, you cannot impose it on the other side. You can impose war. You cannot impose peace. For peace, it takes two. It's like tango. And whenever I was asked about risk, I used to answer that all along my life, I took much higher risk for much lesser causes. And you know, that's a way of life. I thought that there is no meaning of sitting in the chair of Israeli Prime Minister if you are not ready to take, however courageous, so to speak, risky steps in order to change reality. That's the role of leaders. Now, unfortunately, in the case of peacemaking, you can never penetrate the soul and the kind of intentions of the other side, and you cannot impose it upon him. If we had a Palestinian leader with the character of either President Sadat of Egypt or King Hussein of Jordan, we would already have an implemented peace agreement with the Palestinians. Unfortunately, we found a guy who was all along his life and remained to the last day a terrorist, a corrupted leader, and a failure of leadership at any moment of truth. And I thought post-Camp David, you know, I tried my best, but when I found him to be what he was, I saw that it was a time to call a spade a spade. If he looks like a terrorist, he walks like a terrorist, he quacks like a terrorist, probably he's one.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen. We're back speaking with Jane Lute about Homeland Security. What are the greatest dangers that face our nation today?
Well, in my view, I think the greatest danger, and nothing comes close, is that we'll lose faith in each other. When we stand together, and this country is greatest, not in a defensive crouch, but when we're confronting our challenges head on together, when we're mobilizing our strengths to share our common burdens, if we were to lose faith in each other, that to me would be the greatest challenge.
Your focus these days is cybersecurity. How big of an impact is digital technology and access to the internet on our lives?
Well, it's hard to imagine any of us that are not walking around at any given moment with at least one digital device. I have 3 phones that I'm carrying right now, and everyone has one. And our phone is just it's so much more than a phone. I mean, it's our mail, it's our magazines, it's our radio, it's our photo album. I mean, we're all connected. We have enormous reliance on IT and access to the internet. I don't think there's an enterprise in the marketplace today that delivers value without that reliance. Not one.
How dangerous is cyberspace?
And that's really the challenge that we face, is that as reliant as we are, as extensive as the reach of cyberspace is, there's nothing still we can do online that we're not vulnerable to. There's nothing that we can assert that we can do with confidence that our information and our identity might not be compromised. And that's got to change.
So how do we protect our privacy and security?
In the first instance, we need manufacturers to stop shipping us equipment and material, IT equipment that's easy to break into. And that's in the first instance. And secondly, we all need to be smart about those simple things that we can do, straightforward things that we can do to reduce our vulnerability. Not sharing our password, for example, being aware of what's connected to our home networks, businesses being aware of who has permission to wander around their networks. There's a lot we can do to reduce our vulnerability.
What's the role that government's playing in regards to cybersecurity?
Well, isn't this the heart of the question? I mean, because security is typically something that we as a society assign to government to handle. We want safe streets. Governments, you run the police. We want a safe country. The government runs the military, for example. But in cyberspace, governments aren't the main providers of security because they don't have the power that matters. In cyberspace, it's the power to connect us, not the power to protect us, that matters. And we've got to change that.
I'm going to switch gears now. Israel is a leader when it comes to technology and intelligence information. How involved is the state of Israel in cybersecurity?
Well, at least that we could talk about publicly, they are. Israel is a leader.
On a global basis.
Israel is a leader, not only from a technology point of view, from a software point of view, from a practices point of view, really in the whole question of data integrity, software integrity, some of the most exciting work is coming out of Israel. But again, no state, no government can do all that needs doing here.
Does Israel's advance in technology make them more vulnerable as a target?
Well, I think we can point to other things that make Israel vulnerable as a target, but certainly it's mobilizable as part of the strong defenses of the state of Israel. And the population of the state of Israel, the dynamic economy, the entrepreneurial spirit that emerges out of Israel. Every year there's something new and exciting coming out of Israel.
We keep hearing about a rise in anti-Semitism online. How do we combat that?
You know, Governor Cuomo in New York a couple of weeks ago said that anti-Semitic attacks are up 90% in New York. In New York. It's extraordinary.
That's very disturbing.
But we as a community need to be prepared, not scared. We need to know what's going on around us. We need to be talking and open, not only with other Jewish communities, but with other communities that we share space in, as we do everywhere around the world. You know, we've, as again, a population kind of internalized this notion, if you see something, say something. We can't do all that needs doing on our own, no one can, but we need to pool our strengths again to share this burden.
How do we know how do you know to categorize something as a terrorist threat versus just a threat of violence?
Right. Well, I mean, there's threat of crime and violence and sort of the minimum expectation we have of our law enforcement organizations, for example, is that they'll prevent violence from happening, yet sometimes it does. But terrorists are an altogether different breed. They wake up every day thinking about how they can harm people to advance their agenda, thinking about how can they shock, can they terrorize, literally. And so there's a difference in kind and in spirit. But again, also here, we have laws and each other.
But the tool of the internet could be so dangerous.
No, sorry, you're absolutely right. I mean, and we're all on the same internet, you know, good guys and bad guys, whether we're corporations or non-governmental philanthropies or private citizens or organized crime or terrorists. We're all on the same network. And so this is one of the roles that we expect our government to play, which is to understand how terrorists are exploiting this technology and this connectivity to increase our vulnerability so that we can all take steps to reduce it.
Thank you. We'll be back after this brief pause. Coming up, Jane Lute talks about her new role with the UN as a special coordinator to prevent sexual abuse and exploitation.
Picture living aboard a luxury cruise ship with first-class service and the best amenities 24/7. Life at Tradition is just like a cruise ship that doesn't leave port. With more fabulous food, more fun with friends and family, a more fulfilling future, more care when you need it, and more freedom when you don't. Our elegant assisted living residences provide so much more, so you can make the most of every day. Rent an apartment at Morse Life and see how much more life can be.
There are few experiences that bring a family closer than an adventure in the land of Israel. Enjoy the magic of Hanukkah with your children or grandchildren on Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's unforgettable, tailor-made journey through Israel's most magnificent sites and cities. It's happening December 22nd to 29th, 2019. Learn more and reserve your spot with the information on your screen.
If it wasn't for the financial assistance, I couldn't come here.
Every little bit helps. She says, I get stronger every day.
When you have a child and you want the absolute best for them, it's twice as important to make the community strong.
We're back with Jane Lute, and I want to get this right. You wear many hats, and one of them is that you're the special coordinator for the UN's efforts to prevent sexual exploitation and abuse. What exactly is your role?
So a number of years ago, reports came out that UN personnel who had been sent to peacekeeping and humanitarian assistance locations around the world were abusing those populations. And the women and children, mostly, were subject to sexual exploitation and abuse by UN peacekeepers and humanitarian workers. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's completely unacceptable. And the Secretary General, I've worked for 3 Secretaries General, said it is outrageous and we are not going to stand for this. And we are going to institute a policy of zero tolerance. Means we will prevent it, we will take every effort to prevent it from happening, and when it does happen, we will respond rapidly with assistance to victims and then with the administration of justice so that perpetrators can be held to account. But similarly, if people have been wrongly accused, that they can be exonerated.
Can you discuss how exactly you're monitoring this?
Yes, in fact, one of the instructions from the Secretary General Guterres to me is that the UN wants to be as open as possible. Let's identify the conditions that cause this to happen. Is it because people don't think it's wrong? Is it because people don't know what the rules are? Is it because leaders are not enforcing those rules? And one by one, we've eliminated those excuses. And so now we talk about the no excuse environment that we create for the UN. And then secondly, what we've tried to do is put victims at the center of our efforts, which is from a victim's perspective or a potential victim's perspective. What are the right policies? How can we be responsive? What are their needs in these communities? And there are very desperate circumstances around the world, and these people really need our help.
Well, I'm sure you're dealing with so many different cultures and so many primitive cultures, so you have to change the whole identity of how they view things.
And the tragic truth about sexual exploitation and abuse is that it happens everywhere. There's no school, no church, no synagogue, no family that has not had this experience, the women. In fact, I tell people, you don't know a young woman over the age of 15 who has not had to deal with unwanted advances, inappropriate language, or worse. You don't know anyone. This is outrageous. And so where can we look for examples? And where can, the UN has been dealing with this more effectively than in the past for 20 years. Other institutions have been dealing with it for 200 or 2,000. It's time for this to change.
And the Me Too movement, what is the effect on the Me Too?
The Me Too movement has, I think, really shown a spotlight on how harassment of women and how inappropriate behavior towards women can lead to worse behaviors. And what we know about victims of abuse and exploitation is that it's very difficult to come forward. Who wants to relive that experience? And very often when they come forward with accusations, we've seen it in the Me Too movement, women are dismissed or excuses are made for perhaps they invited this behavior. That's wrong. That has to stop. And the Me Too movement has brought all of our sensibility, I think, into question so that we can orient. So this just ends.
Education is really the key, to start very young and to indoctrinate society about the ills and how to respect one another.
In fact, there's the recent Gillette commercial about men. Can we expect more and better from men? We need to educate our young girls. And the youngest of the generations coming up, I have a daughter who's 14, they're aware of their rights and about their right to the integrity of their person. We need to support them and support that attitude. We can change this environment. This does not have to be a way of life for women everywhere. That's got to stop.
What inspired you to take this role?
Well, the Secretary General asked me to take it.
I would too.
And it's not my field. I don't come from gender studies background or from any of this. I was in the Army. I was a soldier. And I came out of public service. And so when you're given a challenge and you learn as much as you can, you talk to the experts who know far more than I ever will, and you try and do the right thing.
Well, you definitely sound like you are. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mosaic is brought to you by these generous sponsors and underwriters. Learn how you can support Mosaic by visiting jewishpalmbeach.org/mosaic.